Nigerian Army and DSS rescues kidnapped lecturer in Taraba State. NDLEA intercept drugs concealed in vehicle side mirrors and lipsticks. 5 dead bodies trapped underground a mine site in Chile finally recovered. On Laverita TV News, I am Kende Mohammed. Now the news in full. Troops of the Nigerian Army and operatives of the Department of State Services has rescued a lecturer at Taraba State University, Joshua Saleh. The lecturer was abducted on July 31, 2025 along the Shinkai-Kente-Wukari Road in Wukari local government area of Taraba State. The rescue followed a joint operation based on actionable intelligence across several locations, including Kante, Sondi, Yaku, and Warawa. A statement on Sunday by Acting Assistant Director, Army Public Relations 6th Brigade Lieutenant Umar Muhammad, said that during the operation, troops engaged the kidnappers in a gunfire, forcing them to abandon the victim. The statement read, "In a daring and well-coordinated operation, troops of 6th Brigade NA Sector 3 Operation Well Stroke, in collaboration with operatives of the Department of State Services, have successfully rescued Joshua Saleh, a lecturer at Taraba State University. During the operation, troops encountered the kidnappers and engaged them in a fierce gun battle. Overwhelmed by the superior firepower and pressure, the criminals fled the scene. Abandoning the victim, Saleh was found unarmed and promptly rescued. The child labor and abuse have become rampant in the society, with lots of children outside school and forced to experience adulthood at an early age. And these acts have been responsible for betting criminal minds and actions at such tender age. These practices deny children their right to education, protection, and a safe, healthy childhood. Let's get the opinions of people on child labor and abuse on the streets of Kaduna.
My name is Daniel Omolova. I'm an economist by profession with strong passion for IT and ICT. Well, I would just describe myself as a very simple man serving God and just making life better for everybody one day at a time. That's what
Okay,
I would say.
that's very nice. Okay, sir, the question is, what do you feel about child abuse and also child labor?
Well, personally, I feel that it's not something that should be encouraged because it has an adverse effect on the economy and the world as a whole. If you look at the concept of child abuse and the concept of child labor, you see that Nigeria itself is wallowing in volumes and numerous acts of child abuse and child labor without even knowing. And then I'm happy that interviews like this are coming up to create more awareness, because for me it is not something that should be encouraged. It should be reduced to a very minimal level, if not completely eradicated.
Okay, thank you for that response. So the second question now is, what advice will you give parents that instead of valuing education, they value labor, that is for their children to go out and work instead of education? What advice will you give them?
Well, I believe that as a form of advice to parents, in everything in life there's something called balance. In as much as you're encouraging your child to be productive to the society, in as much as you're encouraging your child to be useful to the society, it's also important that you give them that background of education. If I look at UN statistics, I stand to be corrected, but there's a particular age that a child is qualified to work, and there's a particular age where a child is not supposed to be found doing any form of work to earn money. But within that age where a child is supposed to be being educated, I believe that parents should do their best. I mean, there are many forms of education. There are private schools, there are government schools, but there should be a balance. That's what I'm trying to say. There should be a balance such that when it is time for the child to go to school, let the child go to school. When it is time for the child to work and learn a skill, let the child learn a skill. That's my advice to parents.
Okay. Thank you very much for your response.
Thank you so much.
My name is Elike Square.
Okay.
So I actually have a business here at Banawa Market Road. So can I have your question?
Okay. So, sir, what do you feel on child abuse and also child labor?
Quite frankly, the two things seem somehow similar.
Okay.
The child abuse and child labor. But from my own personal understanding about child abuse is actually subjecting a minor. You understand? Subjecting a minor to a work or activities.
Okay.
You understand? Which is not, I mean, he has not been able to do, or is not entitled to do, or has not grown up to be able to do that kind of work. It can come in different form. It can abuse child by maybe subjecting child to a very tedious job. It can abuse a child maybe by taking advantage of that person sexually or whatever. I get him. There are several lot of
Very
ways
well.
somebody can
Very well.
actually abuse a child who is not actually of age, who is still a minor. Then child labor, like I said earlier, I said two of them for me look somehow similar. You
Yes, yes, you
understand?
said it.
Because by abusing a child, even if a child, okay, for instance now, let me say child abuse, when somebody, or child labor for instance, when somebody who is still at the age of being, who is supposed to be in primary school or nursery school to start with, is out there maybe hawking granite or whatever, you understand, just to earn living or to provide for the master. I get my point.
Very well.
In one way or the other, you actually abusing that child by
Okay.
subjecting him to a labor he's not supposed to do at that particular age. So, and the effect, it has a monumental effect because by the time that child actually grow up without having a basic education he's supposed to have, it become a nuisance in the society. That's why you see some people, maybe by 8 o'clock, you are passing across some certain streets. Somebody will just bring out knife and say, bring out your phone. It's actually to bring out your phone because he's unable to buy that phone and he want to have a phone he cannot be able to afford. But assuming he was able to be, he was able to have a reasonable, solid foundation about his life. You understand? At a certain age, he's supposed to have that phone, he will actually be able to have it. You understand? At his level. And again, if somebody actually became socially liberated, are you getting my point?
Very
You
well.
went to school, you understand, and he had a focus. You want to be maybe a mass communicator, or a doctor, an engineer. And by the time you grew up pursuing such a career in life, and you grew up seeing yourself achieving your dream, are you getting my point?
Very
So
well.
there's nothing that will actually make you leave that career and then go back and start being a bandit, kidnapper, or whatever that you're not supposed to be. So it's because you were actually not being directed to the right direction from the childhood. So
Okay.
all this is what actually bring about such
Okay.
all the
So, sir, another question I have for you is, what advice will you give parents that feel they should just, instead of sending their child to school, it's better for the child to just walk? So, what advice can you give the
instead
parents?
of them sending their child to school,
Yes, yes,
it's better for the child to work.
yes, yes. Parents
Okay,
that value
work
labor, yes,
instead
than
of going to
education,
school.
yes.
Actually, to me, there is a stage a child is meant to go to school, and there is a stage a child is meant to work. You cannot actually send a child to work. Let me just take Nigeria as a case study. Nigeria is a country that is being colonized by British. Our former, or let me say, our common language is English or broken language. So if somebody, for instance, did not go to school and he send that person to go and work, you understand,
Yes.
and is unable to read and write, even after he must have acquired that skill, you understand, he will never go far doing such a job. So basically, that person is supposed to have a basic education. He must have to go to school. If the family is unable to maybe further his education or sponsor his education, by that time he must have had a basic education. He cannot go and learn work. So you cannot just find somebody who is still at the age of 5, 6, 10 years. You send that person to go and learn work
Okay.
without having a basic education. It's not really fair.
So thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
We've all had the opinions of people on child abuse and also child labor, and definitely we know that child abuse makes the child not to actually do what it's supposed to do, and also when you abuse a child, the child tends to live in trauma throughout the rest of their life. Reporting from LAVERITATV, I am Deborah Adekunle.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has intercepted illicit drugs hidden inside vehicle side mirrors. The agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, disclosed this in a post shared via his X handle on Sunday. He wrote, "They found another use of our vehicle side mirrors as discovered by NDLEA Nigeria officers in one of our latest seizures. Let's be more careful." The latest seizure adds to a growing list of unconventional concealment methods employed by drug traffickers in recent times, including stuffing drugs in lipstick tubes, prayer beads, cloth hanger, and dress seams. The agency has intensified its surveillance and profiling efforts at all entry and exit points across the country, warning traffickers that it remains steps ahead of their desperate tactics. Rescuers in Chile have found the body of the last of 5 workers who had been trapped in the world's largest underground copper mine after an earthquake on Thursday. The announcement was made by Regional Prosecutor Aguis Cubillos, who said the focus now was on a criminal investigation into the incident at El Teniente mine, run by the state-owned Codelco company. The 4 other bodies have been discovered on Saturday and earlier on Sunday during a desperate search in collapsed mine tunnels about 70 kilometers southeast of the capital, Santiago. The overall death toll is now confirmed at 6, as another person was killed at the time of the incident on Thursday. Authorities have said they are investigating whether the cause of the earthquake was mining activity or natural tectonic shifts. Now to sports. Nigeria overcame a resilient Mali on the last day of the 2025 Women's Afrobasket to become the first team to win the tournament 5 times in a row. The 78-64 victory was one of Nigeria's toughest of the tournament. With this win, Nigeria extended their winning streak to 29-0, dating back to the 3rd place game of the 2015 tournament in Yaoundé, Cameroon, as was the case for most of their initial games in the tournament. Nigeria got off to a slow start. However, feeling threatened by Mali's intensity, Renam Wakama's team regrouped in the second quarter and headed to the locker room tied at 41-41. Ami Okonkwo stepped onto the court with one specific task: shoot and play physical. She was 7 for 11 from the field, including 4 for 7 from beyond the arc, and finished with 19 points. Ezine Kalu led Nigeria in scoring with 20 points. Here's a recap of the news headline. Nigerian Army and DSS rescues kidnapped lecturer in Taraba State. NDLEA intercept drugs concealed in vehicle side mirrors and lipsticks. 5 dead bodies trapped on the ground a mine site in Chile finally recovered. To donate for the upcoming Adekunle Komolafe table tennis competition, coming up in October this year, you can visit us at www.laveritatvproductions.com with a donation of 2,200 Naira only.
9 states, 1 day. Adekunle Komolafe Foundation present table tennis competition coming up in the city of Kano, Nasarawa, Kogi, Ekiti, Niger, Benue, Lagos, and the Federal Capital Territory (FCT). Finals comes up in the city of Kaduna. Amounts to be won: first place 15 million naira, second place 10 million naira, third place 5 million naira. Registration begins on the 5th of June 2025. To register, log in to LAVERITATVProductions.com. For sponsorship, partnership, and advert placement, please call Adekunle Komolafe Foundation Table Tennis Competition. Smash your way to victory.
And for our hotels and hospitality management, you can visit us at www.laveritahotels.com. And you can also follow us on all our social media handles. On X is LAVERITATV Ltd. On Instagram is LAVERITATV Ltd. On YouTube is LAVERITATV Ltd. On TikTok is MOFW Dating. And you can also follow us on our Facebook handle, Adekunle Komolafe Foundation TV. That's the news on Laverita TV. I am Kende Mohammed.
Unveiling the truth. Breaking news, stories unfold. LAVERITAV News, truth to be told. In-depth reporting, facts shine bright. Stay informed, day and night. LAVERITAV News, your trusted source. Unveiling the truth, of course. Current events in real time. LAVERITAV News.